Have you ever wondered what truly defines us as humans? Is it our wisdom or perhaps our folly? What if I told you that the key to understanding ourselves lies not in our perfection, but in our imperfections? Today, we dive into the timeless ideas of Erasmus of Rotterdam, a thinker whose wit and insight reveal profound truths about the human condition. In his groundbreaking work In Praise of Folly, Erasmus flips the script, showing us how stupidity plays a vital role in our lives. Prepare to challenge your assumptions, laugh at the absurdity of life, and find inspiration in places you least expect. Together, we'll explore the paradoxes that define us, from the folly in our relationships to the wisdom hidden in our failures. But don't just sit back, be part of this journey. If you enjoy thought-provoking content like this, make sure to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to join a community of curious minds who love exploring ideas that matter. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, consider using the super thanks button or checking out the donation links below. Every contribution helps us create more meaningful content for you. Ready to explore the beauty of imperfection? Let's begin. Erasmus of Rotterdam's In Praise of Folly invites readers into a satirical journey, personifying stupidity as a goddess who unapologetically exposes the paradoxes of human nature. At its core, Erasmus' work questions the widely accepted notion that reason and knowledge are the ultimate guiding forces of human life. Instead, he suggests that folly, our inherent tendency toward irrationality, plays an equally, if not more, significant role in shaping our decisions, relationships, and institutions. Through this lens, he critiques not just individual behavior but also societal norms, politics, religion, and even the pursuit of philosophy itself, drawing attention to the absurdity often hidden beneath the veneer of wisdom. One of the most striking arguments in Praise of Folly is the connection Erasmus draws between ignorance and happiness. He provocatively suggests that ignorance is not merely blissful, it is essential to human contentment. Stupidity, personified, asserts that thinking too deeply, analyzing too critically, and striving for knowledge often lead to dissatisfaction and despair. This paradox finds resonance in the modern world, where overthinking and overanalyzing frequently correlate with anxiety and unhappiness. Consider the prevalence of analysis paralysis in everyday life, whether it's choosing a career, a partner, or even a Netflix show. The seemingly infinite options demand rational evaluation, yet the process often results in frustration rather than fulfillment. Erasmus would argue that embracing a certain level of folly, a willingness to act without overthinking, could liberate us from this burden. Erasmus extends this analysis into human relationships, highlighting the vital role of folly in maintaining bonds such as friendship and marriage. According to him, friendships thrive not on unyielding honesty, but on mutual blindness to one another's flaws. Similarly, marriages endure not because couples are perfectly suited to one another, but because they rely on illusions, compromises, and sometimes outright deceptions to sustain harmony. This idea resonates with the common saying, "Pick your battles." Successful relationships are rarely the result of constant rational evaluations, but rather of choosing what to ignore and when to let go. A relatable example might be the couple who agree never to argue about each other's minor habits, such as leaving the cap off the toothpaste or forgetting to turn off the lights. These small acts of intentional oversight demonstrate the power of folly in fostering long-term connection. Erasmus' critique of politics is equally sharp. He observes that leaders often rise to power not because of their wisdom, but because of their ability to appeal to the masses' irrational desires and expectations. Stupidity, he argues, becomes a tool wielded by politicians to manipulate and maintain control. This critique feels particularly relevant in today's world of political theater, where charisma and spectacle often overshadow substantive policy discussions. Consider how modern political campaigns focus on slogans, soundbites, and emotional appeals rather than detailed plans for governance. From ancient Rome's bread and circuses to contemporary debates dominated by viral moments, Erasmus' insight into the performative nature of politics remains timeless. Religion, too, does not escape Erasmus' scrutiny. He critiques the blind faith and ritualistic practices that often characterize institutional religion, contrasting them with the purity and sacrifice that religious ideals supposedly promote. While Erasmus remained a devout Catholic, his satire targeted the corruption and hypocrisy within the Church. This duality, criticizing the institution while upholding the faith, adds depth to his argument. He invites believers to reflect on the ways in which folly infiltrates religious practice, whether through indulgences, superstition, or the uncritical acceptance of dogma. A modern parallel might be seen in the commodification of spirituality, where self-help gurus and televangelists exploit people's need for hope and guidance for personal gain. Erasmus' work reminds us to approach faith with a critical yet sincere heart, avoiding both blind acceptance and cynical rejection. Even philosophers, whom society holds in high regard for their pursuit of wisdom, are not spared from Erasmus' satire. He portrays them as figures often trapped in their own contradictions, their quest for truth overshadowed by arrogance and a sense of superiority. Their detachment from practical concerns and their preoccupation with abstract ideas can render them isolated and ineffective in addressing real-world problems. This critique finds echoes in the stereotype of the ivory tower, academic brilliant, but disconnected from the everyday struggles of ordinary people. A contemporary example might be a scholar whose groundbreaking theories on poverty fail to translate into actionable solutions because they are too complex or idealistic for policymakers to implement. Erasmus' reflections on folly extend beyond critique. They also serve as an exploration of human nature's complexity. He does not deny the value of knowledge or the importance of rationality. Instead, he invites readers to embrace the contradictions inherent in life, the interplay between reason and folly, wisdom and ignorance. Stupidity, in his view, is not merely a weakness but a universal element that unites humanity. By acknowledging its presence, we can better understand ourselves and navigate the challenges of existence with humility and grace. Consider the role of folly in creativity and innovation. Many of history's greatest breakthroughs emerged from ideas that initially seemed foolish or impractical. The Wright brothers' dream of human flight was mocked, yet their persistence, bordering on folly, revolutionized transportation. Similarly, entrepreneurs who take seemingly irrational risks often drive progress and reshape industries. These examples illustrate Erasmus' point that folly, when tempered with vision and effort, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Erasmus' exploration of folly also touches on the theme of acceptance. By recognizing and even celebrating our imperfections, we can achieve a more balanced and fulfilling life. This perspective is exemplified in the Zen parable of the cracked pot, which, despite its flaw, waters flowers along the path every day. The pot's imperfection contributes beauty to the world, just as our own imperfections can lead to unexpected joys and connections. This idea challenges the modern obsession with perfection, reminding us that flaws are not obstacles but opportunities for growth and meaning. In modern society, where the pressure to achieve, optimize, and succeed is relentless, Erasmus' message offers a refreshing counterpoint. He encourages us to step back, laugh at ourselves, and acknowledge that folly is an integral part of being human, whether in personal relationships, professional endeavors, or spiritual pursuits. His insights invite us to find harmony in the balance between knowledge and ignorance, reason and madness. Erasmus' work continues to resonate because it addresses timeless questions about the human condition. His humor and irony make complex philosophical ideas accessible, while his willingness to confront uncomfortable truths ensures their relevance across centuries. By framing folly as both a flaw and a gift, he offers a nuanced perspective on our shared humanity. In embracing this perspective, we not only gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, but also discover the wisdom in letting go of the illusion of complete control. Through folly, as Erasmus shows, we find the courage to live authentically and the resilience to face life's contradictions with grace. The Renaissance was a period of profound cultural, intellectual, and societal transformation. It brought a renewed emphasis on humanism, celebrating the dignity, potential, and intellectual capacity of man. This period also sought to revive the classical knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome, integrating it into a world that was rapidly evolving in its understanding of art, science, and philosophy. However, beneath the surface of these cultural advancements lay deep contradictions that mirrored the complexities of human nature itself. The Renaissance was not just a celebration of human potential, but also a reflection of humanity's flaws, hypocrisies, and limitations. These tensions provided the backdrop for Erasmus of Rotterdam's incisive critique of society, religion, and human behavior in his works. Erasmus was both a product of and a contributor to the Renaissance's dynamic intellectual landscape. Born in Rotterdam around 1466, Erasmus emerged as one of the most influential thinkers of his time, embodying the contradictions of the era he inhabited. He was a devout Catholic, yet he openly criticized the Church's corruption and the superficiality of many religious practices. This duality defined much of his life's work. While he remained committed to the ideals of Catholicism, he sought reform from within rather than aligning himself with the more radical movements that would lead to the Protestant Reformation. This internal conflict between faith and reason, loyalty and criticism, is emblematic of the Renaissance's broader tensions. The corruption of the Church during the Renaissance was a central issue that preoccupied Erasmus and many of his contemporaries. The sale of indulgences, the opulence of the clergy, and the exploitation of the faithful for financial gain were just a few examples of the institutional decay that Erasmus sought to expose. Yet, unlike Martin Luther, who broke away from the Catholic Church to establish Protestantism, Erasmus chose a path of constructive criticism. He believed in the possibility of reform and emphasized the need for a return to the fundamental principles of Christianity: humility, charity, and a personal relationship with God. His approach was deeply rooted in the humanist tradition, which prioritized reason and education as tools for societal improvement. Erasmus' commitment to education as a means of reforming society reflected another key aspect of the Renaissance: the belief in the transformative power of knowledge. He saw ignorance as one of the primary causes of societal corruption and sought to combat it through his writings. His works, such as the Handbook of the Christian Soldier and Adages, were designed to educate and inspire readers to think critically about their faith and their world. By emphasizing the importance of individual responsibility and intellectual engagement, Erasmus contributed to the broader humanist movement, which sought to empower individuals to shape their own destinies. The broader cultural context of the Renaissance was also marked by the rise of individualism, a theme that deeply influenced Erasmus' thought. This period celebrated the potential of the individual to achieve greatness, as exemplified by figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, whose works embodied the Renaissance ideal of the universal man. Yet, this burgeoning individualism also created tensions with established authorities, particularly the Church and the state. Erasmus navigated these tensions with remarkable skill, using satire and irony to critique the abuses of power while avoiding direct confrontation with the institutions he criticized. His most famous work, In Praise of Folly, exemplifies this approach. Through the personification of folly as a goddess, Erasmus offers a biting yet humorous critique of human behavior, exposing the contradictions and hypocrisies that pervade society. One of the key insights of Erasmus' critique is his recognition of the interplay between knowledge and ignorance. While the Renaissance celebrated the pursuit of knowledge, Erasmus was acutely aware of its limitations. He understood that knowledge alone could not solve the deeper moral and spiritual problems that plagued humanity. In fact, he often highlighted the dangers of intellectual arrogance, warning that excessive reliance on reason could lead to a sense of superiority and detachment from the practical concerns of everyday life. This critique is particularly relevant in modern times, where the pursuit of knowledge and technological advancement often comes at the expense of empathy and ethical consideration. Erasmus' exploration of human folly extends beyond the individual to encompass societal institutions, including politics and religion. He observed that many of the leaders of his time were more concerned with maintaining power and appearances than with governing wisely or justly. This critique is strikingly applicable to contemporary politics, where image and rhetoric often take precedence over substance and policy. Erasmus' emphasis on humility and self-awareness as antidotes to such folly resonates as strongly today as it did in the 16th century. In addition to his critique of societal institutions, Erasmus was deeply concerned with the tension between tradition and innovation, another hallmark of the Renaissance. He revered the classical traditions of Greece and Rome, seeing them as a source of wisdom and inspiration. At the same time, he was keenly aware of the need to adapt these traditions to the changing realities of his own time. This balance between respect for the past and openness to the future is a recurring theme in his work. It reflects the broader Renaissance ideal of blending the old and the new to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Erasmus' ability to navigate these complexities with nuance and wit is perhaps his greatest legacy. His works continue to inspire readers to think critically about the world around them, to question authority, and to embrace the contradictions inherent in the human condition. By acknowledging the flaws and limitations of humanity, Erasmus offers a vision of reform that is both realistic and hopeful. His emphasis on education, humility, and personal responsibility provides a roadmap for addressing the challenges of any era, including our own. Through his life and work, Erasmus exemplified the Renaissance spirit of intellectual curiosity, moral integrity, and cultural innovation. His critiques of societal corruption, his advocacy for education, and his exploration of the tensions between knowledge and ignorance remain profoundly relevant today. As we grapple with the complexities of our own time, Erasmus' insights remind us that the pursuit of a better world begins with an honest examination of ourselves and the institutions we create. By embracing the contradictions of the human experience, we can strive for a balance between reason and faith, tradition and progress, individuality and community, just as Erasmus did more than 5 centuries ago. At the core of In Praise of Folly, Erasmus presents a striking idea. Stupidity is not simply a weakness or a character defect, but a universal force that shapes every facet of human existence. Through the personification of stupidity as a goddess, Erasmus crafts a narrative that is as humorous as it is profound. Stupidity claims her role as an essential element of human happiness, asserting that ignorance often preserves joy, whereas the pursuit of knowledge can bring heaviness and despair. This paradox, where folly is simultaneously a source of joy and a reflection of human imperfection, invites readers to reconsider the value of wisdom and the cost it exacts on our well-being. Erasmus' argument begins with the contrast between childhood and adulthood, a dichotomy that is both relatable and timeless. Childhood, with its innocence and simplicity, is marked by a lightness of being. Children approach the world with curiosity and an ability to find joy in the smallest things, unburdened by the weight of existential questions or the need to rationalize their experiences. In contrast, adulthood often brings the pressures of responsibility, the demands of critical thinking, and the existential anxiety that comes with self-awareness. Stupidity, as Erasmus frames it, allows us to recapture some of that childlike joy by embracing the simplicity of ignorance. For instance, think of the way a child delights in a simple magic trick, while an adult armed with the knowledge of how it's done might struggle to feel the same wonder. The bliss of not knowing, Erasmus suggests, has its own kind of wisdom. This idea extends to social relationships, where stupidity often plays a vital role in maintaining harmony. Erasmus argues that human bonds, whether in friendships, marriages, or communities, are sustained not by relentless honesty or rational evaluation, but by a willingness to overlook flaws and embrace imperfection. Consider the example of a long-lasting friendship where one friend is perpetually late but is otherwise loyal and kind. If the punctual friend were to dwell constantly on this flaw, the friendship might suffer. Instead, the ability to laugh it off or simply accept it as part of the other person's character is a form of productive folly that strengthens the bond. Similarly, in marriage, partners often compromise and ignore each other's minor faults to preserve the relationship. Erasmus' insight into the mutual blindness required for these connections is as true today as it was in his time. In the realm of politics, Erasmus' exploration of stupidity becomes even more biting. He highlights how leaders often rise to power not through wisdom or virtue, but by appealing to the masses' irrational desires and fears. This critique is particularly resonant in the context of modern political campaigns, where emotional appeals and simple slogans frequently outshine nuanced policy discussions. Think of slogans like, "Make America Great Again," or "Yes, we can," catchy, evocative, and effective in rallying support, but often devoid of concrete substance. Erasmus would likely view this phenomenon as an example of stupidity wielded as a tool of power. Leaders who understand and manipulate the irrational tendencies of their constituents often succeed, not because they are wise, but because they are astute observers of human folly. Even in religion, Erasmus finds stupidity playing a paradoxical role. While he critiques the blind adherence to dogma and the corrupt practices of the institutional church, he also acknowledges that faith itself often requires a suspension of reason. To believe in the unseen, to find comfort in spiritual rituals, and to embrace the mysteries of existence all involve a kind of folly. This perspective challenges the modern view that rationality and faith are always in opposition. Instead, Erasmus suggests that stupidity, in the form of humble acceptance and trust, can be a foundation for spiritual contentment. A contemporary parallel might be seen in the way people find solace in meditation or prayer, not because they can rationalize their efficacy, but because these practices provide peace and meaning. Erasmus does not limit his exploration of stupidity to societal structures. He also examines its presence in individual pursuits, particularly in the quest for knowledge. Philosophers and scholars, whom society often venerates for their intellect, are not immune to folly. Erasmus points out the irony of their condition. Their relentless search for truth often isolates them from the very people they seek to enlighten. This critique can be applied to modern academia, where scholars sometimes prioritize complex theories and jargon over accessibility and practical relevance. For example, a groundbreaking paper on climate change might fail to influence public behavior if it is written in overly technical language. In such cases, the pursuit of wisdom becomes counterproductive, highlighting the limits of reason and the necessity of connecting with human emotions and experiences. Erasmus' portrayal of stupidity is not entirely negative. In fact, he suggests that it serves as a unifying force, reminding us of our shared humanity. Everyone, regardless of their status, education, or intellect, is susceptible to folly. This universality can foster empathy and humility, encouraging us to approach others with less judgment and more understanding. For instance, think of how common it is to make impulsive decisions buying something unnecessary, saying something regrettable in anger, or trusting the wrong person. These moments of folly are not unique to any one individual. They are part of what makes us human. By accepting this, Erasmus argues, we can learn to forgive ourselves and others more readily. The paradox of stupidity also extends to creativity and innovation. Many great ideas and inventions were initially dismissed as foolish or impractical. The Wright brothers' dream of human flight, for instance, seemed absurd to their contemporaries. Yet, their persistence in the face of skepticism led to one of humanity's most transformative achievements. Similarly, entrepreneurs and artists often take risks that defy conventional wisdom, pushing boundaries and challenging norms. These acts of creative folly, while risky, are essential for progress. Erasmus' insight that folly can lead to greatness underlines the importance of embracing seemingly irrational ideas. In everyday life, the balance between reason and folly is a constant negotiation. Too much rationality can lead to rigidity and a lack of spontaneity, while too much folly can result in chaos. Erasmus encourages us to find a middle ground, where we can think critically without losing our capacity for joy and wonder. Consider the example of planning a vacation. A highly rational approach might involve meticulous budgeting, itinerary planning, and risk assessment, which can reduce stress but also sap the trip of spontaneity. On the other hand, throwing caution to the wind and booking a last-minute trip without preparation might lead to unexpected adventures or disasters. The ideal approach lies somewhere in between, combining the structure of reason with the flexibility of folly. Ultimately, Erasmus' exploration of stupidity is a celebration of the complexity of human nature. He does not advocate for ignorance or reject the value of knowledge. Rather, he invites us to recognize the limitations of reason and the inevitability of folly. By embracing this paradox, we can approach life with greater humility, humor, and resilience. Stupidity, as Erasmus presents it, is not an enemy to be eradicated, but a companion to be understood. It is through this understanding that we can navigate the contradictions of existence, finding meaning and joy in the imperfect, unpredictable dance of human life. Erasmus' exploration of the relationship between ignorance and happiness poses a question that feels as relevant today as it did in the Renaissance. Is ignorance truly bliss? His reflections suggest that the simplicity associated with ignorance often brings a form of joy that is difficult to sustain in a life governed by knowledge and reason. He likens this state to the innocence of childhood, where joy stems from a lack of awareness of life's complexities and existential burdens. Children, free from the weight of self-reflection and societal expectations, approach the world with wonder and delight. This blissful ignorance, however, is fleeting, inevitably replaced by the responsibilities and challenges of adulthood. As adults, we often trade this lightness of being for the pursuit of knowledge, believing that understanding will bring control, purpose, or fulfillment. Yet, as Erasmus warns, this pursuit can lead to disillusionment and sorrow. The more we know, the more we realize the limitations of our control and the magnitude of life's uncertainties. Take, for example, the experience of following current events, staying informed about global issues, wars, climate change, economic crises can feel overwhelming and even paralyzing. The knowledge of these problems does not always come with solutions, leaving many feeling helpless or pessimistic about the future. In contrast, those who disengage, focusing instead on lighter, more immediate concerns, often seem more content, if only temporarily. This delicate balance between ignorance and awareness is strikingly evident in the digital age, where social media offers an endless stream of distractions. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube provide a modern parallel to Erasmus' reflections. The uninformed, blissful scrolling through memes, viral dance videos, or compilations of cute animals often feels more satisfying than engaging with the complexities of world politics or the challenges of personal growth. These moments of superficial joy echo Erasmus' suggestion that ignorance, in moderation, can be a reprieve from the relentless pursuit of wisdom. However, this form of ignorance is not without its risks. Overindulgence in these distractions can lead to detachment, apathy, or a lack of critical engagement with the world. Erasmus' idea finds further resonance in everyday life choices. Consider how people approach their relationships or careers. Many find comfort in focusing on the positive aspects of their partners, colleagues, or work environments, consciously ignoring flaws or challenges that might disrupt their peace of mind. For instance, a couple might choose to overlook each other's small, annoying habits to maintain harmony in their relationship. Similarly, an employee might choose to ignore office politics or frustrations with management to focus on their work. These small acts of intentional ignorance enable people to prioritize their happiness over constant confrontation with reality, embodying the balance Erasmus advocates. Yet, Erasmus does not suggest that ignorance is an unqualified good. There is a danger in avoiding knowledge altogether, as it can lead to complacency, missed opportunities, or even harm. A practical example is the tension between health awareness and health anxiety. Someone who avoids learning about their medical conditions might enjoy a worry-free life in the short term, but this ignorance could lead to severe consequences if preventable issues go untreated. On the other hand, an overabundance of health-related knowledge, especially from unreliable sources, can lead to hypochondria or unnecessary stress. Erasmus' reflections invite us to navigate these extremes, recognizing the need for both awareness and selective ignorance to maintain a healthy, balanced life. The tension between ignorance and happiness is also evident in education and learning. Students often struggle with the overwhelming pressure to know and understand everything, a pursuit that can diminish their enjoyment of the learning process. For instance, a child initially fascinated by the stars might lose their sense of wonder when bombarded with complex astrophysical theories too early. In this sense, ignorance allows space for curiosity and joy, while excessive focus on mastery can extinguish it. Erasmus' perspective encourages educators and learners alike to strike a balance, nurturing curiosity while gradually introducing knowledge in a way that preserves the student's enthusiasm and mental well-being. Another relatable example of this dynamic occurs in the workplace. Employees often thrive when they focus on their immediate tasks rather than being consumed by the overarching challenges or uncertainties of their organization. A cashier who takes pride in interacting with customers and providing excellent service may find joy in their work, even if they are unaware of the company's financial struggles or long-term strategy. Conversely, a manager burdened with knowledge of these larger issues might experience stress or burnout, despite their higher status or salary. This contrast underscores Erasmus' argument that ignorance can sometimes serve as a protective buffer, shielding individuals from the overwhelming complexity of their environments. Erasmus' reflections also resonate in the realm of entertainment and leisure. Many people turn to fiction books, movies, or video games as a way to escape reality and immerse themselves in simpler, more controlled worlds. The joy derived from these experiences often comes from temporarily suspending one's awareness of real-world problems. A person engrossed in a fantasy novel or a feel-good romantic comedy might momentarily forget their financial worries or career anxieties. This form of ignorance, while fleeting, provides a necessary reprieve that helps people recharge and face their challenges with renewed energy. However, the interplay between ignorance and happiness is perhaps most apparent in societal attitudes toward progress and innovation. Throughout history, humanity's pursuit of knowledge has led to groundbreaking discoveries and advancements, but it has also introduced new risks and ethical dilemmas. The development of nuclear energy, for example, holds immense potential for solving energy crises, but also carries the threat of devastating consequences if misused. Similarly, the rise of artificial intelligence presents opportunities for improving efficiency and quality of life, but raises questions about privacy, job displacement, and the nature of human agency. These examples illustrate the double-edged nature of knowledge, reinforcing Erasmus' claim that the pursuit of wisdom is not inherently joyful and often comes with significant burdens. Erasmus' exploration of ignorance and happiness challenges us to rethink how we approach life's complexities. While he acknowledges the necessity of knowledge and critical thought, he also emphasizes the importance of preserving a sense of wonder, simplicity, and lightness. This balance is not easily achieved, particularly in a world that often equates knowledge with power and ignorance with weakness. Yet, Erasmus' reflections remind us that both states have their place and value. By recognizing the limits of what we can know and embracing moments of deliberate unawareness, we can navigate life's challenges with greater resilience and grace. The modern emphasis on mindfulness and living in the present echoes Erasmus' insights. Practices like meditation and gratitude journaling encourage people to focus on immediate experiences rather than ruminating on the past or worrying about the future. This intentional narrowing of focus, akin to a temporary embrace of ignorance, can lead to greater happiness and fulfillment. For example, a person who savors their morning coffee without checking emails or thinking about their to-do list often finds the experience more enjoyable. Erasmus' reflections suggest that this practice of selective attention, choosing what to focus on and what to ignore, is a form of wisdom that balances the benefits of ignorance and knowledge. Ultimately, Erasmus' examination of ignorance and happiness reveals a profound truth about the human condition. Life is not a binary choice between knowledge and ignorance, joy and sorrow. Instead, it is a delicate interplay of these forces, requiring careful navigation and constant adjustment. Ignorance, when embraced thoughtfully and in moderation, can provide relief and joy, but it must be tempered by awareness and responsibility. Erasmus invites us to find this balance, to appreciate the lightness that comes from not knowing while remaining open to the growth and depth that knowledge can bring. In doing so, we honor both the innocence of childhood and the wisdom of adulthood, finding harmony in the paradoxes that define us. Erasmus' exploration of human relationships, particularly friendship and marriage, offers a profound yet pragmatic perspective on how bonds are formed and maintained. He suggests that stupidity, far from being a flaw, is an essential ingredient in stabilizing these connections. Relationships, he argues, are not sustained by relentless honesty or constant scrutiny, but rather by a mutual willingness to overlook flaws, accept imperfections, and prioritize harmony over confrontation. This insight, though rooted in Renaissance thought, remains deeply relevant to modern life. Friendship, according to Erasmus, thrives on a certain degree of blindness to each other's faults. True friends often choose not to dwell on the minor irritations or disagreements that inevitably arise in any close relationship. Instead, they focus on the positive qualities that drew them together in the first place. Consider the dynamic of a long-standing friendship. One friend might habitually cancel plans at the last minute, while the other might have a tendency to dominate conversations. These traits, while potentially annoying, are often overlooked or forgiven because the friendship is built on shared experiences, mutual support, and a deeper emotional bond. If either party were to fixate on these shortcomings, the relationship might falter. Erasmus' insight into the selective blindness that sustains friendships reflects a universal truth about human connections. They flourish not through perfection but through tolerance and understanding. Marriage, too, relies on this principle of intentional blindness, amplified by the deeper intimacy and daily interactions that characterize the relationship. Erasmus highlights the illusions and compromises that allow couples to endure together. Imagine a couple navigating the challenges of raising children, managing careers, and maintaining a household. These stresses inevitably reveal each partner's vulnerabilities and flaws, whether it's a lack of patience, a habit of leaving chores undone, or a tendency to forget anniversaries. Yet, successful marriages are not defined by the absence of these issues, but by the couple's ability to look past them and focus on their shared goals and love for one another. A relatable example can be found in the humorous anecdotes shared by long-married couples. One partner might tease the other for never remembering where they put their keys, while the other might poke fun at their partner's inability to follow a recipe without improvising. These lighthearted exchanges demonstrate a key aspect of Erasmus' argument: the ability to laugh at each other's imperfections, rather than fixating on them, is often what keeps relationships strong. The humor and grace required to accept these quirks reflect the subtle role of stupidity in creating a harmonious dynamic. Erasmus' observations extend beyond individual relationships to encompass broader social dynamics. Communities and families, much like friendships and marriages, are held together by a collective willingness to overlook differences and prioritize unity. This principle is evident in family gatherings, where relatives with differing political views or lifestyles often choose to avoid contentious topics in favor of celebrating shared traditions or reminiscing about fond memories. This act of selective ignorance, while not always ideal, serves as a practical tool for preserving relationships in the face of inevitable disagreements. Even in professional relationships, Erasmus' insights find application. Workplace teams often succeed not because every member is flawless, but because they learn to work around each other's limitations. A manager might recognize that a particularly creative employee struggles with deadlines, while a meticulous team member might lack big-picture thinking. Instead of demanding perfection, effective teams embrace these differences and leverage them as complementary strengths. This collaborative mindset mirrors the mutual accommodations Erasmus describes, underscoring the universality of his observations about human relationships. The role of stupidity in relationships is particularly relevant in the age of social media, where the pressure to present an idealized version of oneself often leads to unrealistic expectations in friendships and romantic partnerships. Erasmus' insights challenge this trend, reminding us that authenticity and acceptance of imperfections are the true foundations of meaningful connections. For instance, consider the curated nature of online dating profiles, where individuals highlight their best qualities while downplaying or hiding their flaws. While initial attraction might be based on these polished presentations, Long-term relationships ultimately depend on the partner's ability to embrace each other's full, unfiltered selves. Erasmus reflections also resonate in parenting, where the relationship between parents and children often involves a delicate balance of expectations and forgiveness. Parents frequently overlook their children's minor missteps, spilled milk, forgotten homework, or messy bedrooms because they prioritize their children's growth and well-being over perfection. Similarly, children learn to accept their parents' shortcomings, such as impatience or occasional overprotectiveness, as part of the complex dynamic of familial love. This mutual tolerance, grounded in Erasmus' concept of stupidity, allows families to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life together. The practical wisdom in Erasmus' observations becomes even more apparent when considering the alternative: relationships devoid of compromise or forgiveness, a friendship where every slight is remembered, or a marriage where every flaw is criticized, is unlikely to survive for long. Erasmus' notion of stupidity, therefore, serves as a counterbalance to the unrealistic ideals of perfection often imposed on relationships. By acknowledging that everyone has flaws and that overlooking them is not only necessary but also beneficial, he offers a framework for building stronger, more enduring connections. Erasmus' insights are not an endorsement of complacency or dishonesty, but rather a recognition of the complexities of human nature. He does not suggest that we should ignore serious issues or allow harmful behaviors to persist. Instead, he highlights the importance of prioritizing what truly matters in a relationship: love, trust, and shared values over the inevitable imperfections that come with being human. This perspective encourages a more forgiving and compassionate approach to our interactions with others, fostering relationships that are both resilient and fulfilling. In the end, Erasmus' reflections on stupidity in relationships reveal a timeless truth. The bonds that connect us are often strongest when they are built on a foundation of acceptance and understanding. Whether in friendships, marriages, families, or professional teams, the ability to overlook flaws, embrace quirks, and focus on the bigger picture is what allows relationships to thrive. By recognizing the stabilizing role of stupidity, we can approach our connections with greater empathy, humor, and grace, creating a world where relationships endure not despite our imperfections, but because of them. Erasmus' critique of politics and power remains profoundly relevant in modern times, as his observations about the role of stupidity in governance resonate with the dynamics of contemporary political systems. He points out that rulers often ascend to power not because of their wisdom, virtue, or ability to govern effectively, but because of their skill in manipulating public perception. Erasmus highlights that stupidity, in this context, becomes a deliberate tool wielded by those in power to maintain control, relying on flattery, deceit, and spectacle to secure the loyalty of the masses. This manipulation exploits the emotional and irrational tendencies of the public, effectively masking the shortcomings of leadership while reinforcing the structures of power. One of the clearest examples of this phenomenon is found in the nature of modern election campaigns. Politicians frequently craft soundbites and slogans designed to resonate emotionally rather than intellectually. These messages, often simplistic and vague, appeal to the desires, fears, and aspirations of voters without providing substantive solutions to complex issues. Slogans like "Make America Great Again" or "Hope and Change" exemplify this strategy. They are broad enough to mean different things to different people, creating an illusion of unity and purpose while avoiding the specificity that might invite scrutiny. Erasmus' insights illuminate why such tactics are so effective. They bypass rational analysis and appeal directly to the emotional core, which is often more influential in decision-making than logical reasoning. This reliance on spectacle over substance is not limited to slogans. Political rallies, debates, and media appearances often prioritize performance and charisma over meaningful policy discussion. Candidates who can deliver catchy one-liners, project confidence, or appear relatable are often favored over those who focus on detailed policy proposals. The emphasis on appearance and presentation mirrors Erasmus' critique, suggesting that stupidity is not merely a failure of governance but a calculated tool used to sway public opinion. For example, debates often devolve into soundbite battles, where the winner is determined by their ability to deliver the most memorable zinger rather than their capacity to articulate a coherent vision for the future. The manipulation of public perception through media further reinforces Erasmus' argument. In today's digital age, social media platforms amplify the power of stupidity by rewarding content that provokes strong emotional reactions. Politicians and their campaigns exploit these dynamics by crafting posts, videos, and ads designed to go viral, often prioritizing sensationalism over accuracy. A misleading headline or an out-of-context quote can generate outrage, support, or both, regardless of its truthfulness. Erasmus would likely view this phenomenon as a modern extension of the tactics he criticized, where deception and spectacle are used to distract and control the masses. Erasmus also critiques the role of flattery in politics, observing how leaders surround themselves with sycophants who reinforce their illusions of competence and greatness. This dynamic is evident in many political administrations, where advisors and allies are chosen not for their expertise or willingness to challenge the leader's decisions, but for their loyalty and ability to echo the leader's views. This creates an echo chamber where critical voices are silenced, and decisions are made without meaningful debate or accountability. Historical examples, such as the courts of monarchs who relied on courtiers to inflate their sense of divine right, parallel modern instances where leaders dismiss dissenting experts or advisors in favor of those who align with their narratives. The use of stupidity as a tool of power extends beyond the manipulation of public perception to the suppression of dissent. Leaders often employ propaganda and censorship to control the flow of information, ensuring that only favorable narratives reach the public. Erasmus' critique finds resonance in authoritarian regimes, where the government tightly controls the media and education systems to shape public opinion. By limiting access to alternative perspectives and promoting a singular, often simplistic, view of reality, such regimes exploit stupidity to maintain their grip on power. Even in democratic societies, the manipulation of information through biased reporting, fake news, or algorithm-driven echo chambers reflects Erasmus' concerns about the role of ignorance in sustaining authority. Erasmus' insights into the intersection of politics and stupidity also extend to the dynamics of populism. Populist leaders often present themselves as champions of the people, while framing their opponents as elitist or out of touch. This narrative relies on oversimplified solutions to complex problems, appealing to the frustrations and desires of the electorate. For instance, promises to drain the swamp or build the wall offer clear, actionable imagery that resonates emotionally, even if the practicality or effectiveness of these measures is questionable. Erasmus' critique highlights how such tactics exploit the human tendency to seek straightforward answers, even in situations that demand nuanced understanding. The paradox of stupidity in politics is that while it may serve the interests of those in power, it often undermines the long-term stability and well-being of the society they govern. Policies shaped by emotional appeal rather than careful deliberation can lead to unintended consequences, harming the very people they were meant to benefit. For example, tax cuts framed as relief for the middle class might disproportionately benefit the wealthy, while austerity measures justified as fiscal responsibility can exacerbate poverty and inequality. Erasmus' work encourages us to recognize these patterns and question the narratives presented by those in power, emphasizing the importance of critical thinking and resisting manipulation. Erasmus' observations also resonate in international relations, where leaders use stupidity to manipulate both their domestic audiences and foreign counterparts. Nationalistic rhetoric, for instance, often simplifies complex geopolitical issues into binary choices, fostering an us versus them mentality. This approach can rally support and distract from domestic issues, but it can also escalate tensions and hinder cooperation on global challenges like climate change or conflict resolution. Erasmus' critique of political systems invites us to consider how these dynamics perpetuate cycles of ignorance and division, making it harder to address the root causes of societal and international problems. The enduring relevance of Erasmus' critique lies in its ability to reveal the mechanisms by which power is acquired, maintained, and abused. His exploration of stupidity in politics challenges us to examine the ways in which emotional manipulation, flattery, and spectacle shape our perceptions of leadership and governance. By understanding these dynamics, we can strive to hold leaders accountable, demand transparency, and resist the allure of oversimplified narratives. Erasmus' work reminds us that while stupidity may be a convenient tool for those in power, it is ultimately the responsibility of the governed to seek wisdom and challenge deception. Erasmus' exploration of religion is a nuanced critique of the tension between faith and reason, particularly in how institutions and individuals practice their beliefs. He does not reject religion outright, but rather questions the ways it is corrupted and manipulated by those in power, as well as the blind adherence it often demands from its followers. His critique seeks to highlight the gap between the lofty ideals of purity, humility, and sacrifice that religion espouses and the flawed, often hypocritical reality of its implementation. Erasmus calls for a return to a more personal and authentic spirituality, emphasizing faith as an internal and individual experience rather than a public display of ritual or blind obedience. One of the most striking examples Erasmus critiques is the sale of indulgences, a practice that became a glaring symbol of the Catholic Church's moral decay during the Renaissance. Indulgences allowed individuals to pay for the forgiveness of sins, effectively turning spiritual redemption into a financial transaction. This practice not only exploited the fears and insecurities of the faithful, but also served as a significant revenue stream for the Church. Erasmus condemned this commodification of faith, pointing out that it undermined the very principles of repentance and humility that Christianity was supposed to uphold. He urged believers to seek genuine forgiveness through personal reflection and spiritual growth rather than relying on superficial, transactional acts. The concept of indulgences resonates in modern times through analogous practices where institutions or leaders exploit faith for personal gain or power. For instance, televangelists who promise miracles or financial prosperity in exchange for donations often mimic the exploitative dynamics Erasmus criticized. These figures prey on the desperation and trust of their followers, presenting themselves as intermediaries between the divine and the faithful while enriching themselves. Erasmus' critique challenges such practices, urging believers to discern between authentic spiritual guidance and opportunistic manipulation. Erasmus also critiques the blind adherence of followers who accept religious teachings and rituals without question. He recognizes that this kind of uncritical faith can lead to a detachment from the core values of religion, replacing meaningful spiritual engagement with empty formalities. For example, attending church services out of habit rather than genuine devotion or reciting prayers mechanically without contemplating their meaning can reduce religion to a hollow routine. Erasmus calls for believers to move beyond this superficiality, encouraging them to engage deeply with their faith and reflect on its teachings in a personal and meaningful way. The tension between faith and reason that Erasmus explores is perhaps most evident in the conflict between religious dogma and scientific inquiry. During the Renaissance, figures like Galileo and Copernicus faced persecution for their discoveries, which challenged the Church's interpretation of the cosmos. Erasmus does not take a definitive stance against religious institutions, but instead highlights the need for a dialogue between faith and reason. He advocates for a religion that is open to questioning and growth, recognizing that rigid adherence to dogma stifles both intellectual and spiritual progress. This perspective remains relevant today, as debates about the relationship between science and religion continue to shape societal discourse. Erasmus' critique extends to the clergy, whom he often portrays as more concerned with maintaining their power and privilege than serving their congregations. He exposes the hypocrisy of religious leaders who preach humility and sacrifice while living in luxury and exploiting their positions for personal gain. This critique parallels modern scandals involving religious institutions, where leaders are found guilty of financial corruption, abuse, or other misconduct. Erasmus' writings challenge such leaders to embody the values they preach, emphasizing accountability and integrity as essential to genuine spiritual leadership. Despite his sharp criticisms, Erasmus does not advocate for the rejection of religion. Instead, He emphasizes the importance of personal faith, urging believers to cultivate a direct and authentic relationship with the divine. He argues that true spirituality is not about outward displays of piety, but about internal transformation and moral integrity. For instance, acts of charity performed for public recognition lose their spiritual value, whereas quiet, selfless acts of kindness align with the ideals of faith. This emphasis on personal spirituality resonates with modern movements that encourage mindfulness, meditation, and a focus on individual growth as pathways to a deeper connection with the divine. Erasmus' distinction between faith and institutional religion also highlights the universality of spiritual experiences. He suggests that the essence of faith transcends specific doctrines or rituals, focusing instead on shared values like compassion, humility, and a commitment to justice. This perspective invites interfaith dialogue and mutual respect among different religious traditions, promoting a sense of unity in the pursuit of spiritual and moral ideals. In a world often divided by religious differences, Erasmus' call for authenticity and shared values offers a path toward greater understanding and cooperation. The role of ritual in religion is another area where Erasmus' insights remain relevant. While he acknowledges the importance of rituals in fostering community and providing structure to spiritual practices, he warns against allowing them to overshadow the core principles of faith. For example, fasting during Lent or attending a religious pilgrimage can be deeply meaningful when done with intention and reflection. However, when such practices are performed merely out of obligation or as a means of earning social approval, they lose their spiritual significance. Erasmus encourages believers to approach rituals with sincerity, ensuring that they serve as tools for spiritual growth rather than ends in themselves. Erasmus' reflections on religion also extend to the idea of sacrifice, which he views as a central yet often misunderstood aspect of faith. True sacrifice, he argues, involves giving up personal desires or comforts for the sake of others or for a higher purpose. This contrasts with the superficial sacrifices promoted by religious institutions, such as financial donations or symbolic gestures, which can serve more to enhance the donor's reputation than to fulfill a genuine spiritual calling. Erasmus challenges believers to evaluate the authenticity of their sacrifices, focusing on their impact and intention rather than their outward appearance. The tension between faith and reason that Erasmus examines also applies to how individuals interpret religious texts. He criticizes literalist interpretations that ignore the broader context and deeper meanings of Scripture. For example, focusing on specific rules or prohibitions without considering their underlying principles can lead to a narrow and judgmental approach to faith. Erasmus encourages believers to engage with religious texts thoughtfully and critically, seeking insights that inspire compassion, humility, and a commitment to justice. Erasmus' critique of religion ultimately invites a re-evaluation of what it means to live a spiritual life. He challenges both individuals and institutions to move beyond superficial practices and embrace the transformative power of faith. This transformation is not about adhering to rigid doctrines or performing outward acts of piety, but about cultivating a heart that seeks truth, justice, and love. By emphasizing the personal and authentic aspects of spirituality, Erasmus offers a vision of religion that is both deeply rooted in tradition and open to growth and change. His insights continue to inspire those seeking a more meaningful and inclusive approach to faith, reminding us that true spirituality transcends the boundaries of ritual and dogma to touch the very essence of our humanity. Erasmus' critique of philosophers challenges the idealized image of these thinkers as paragons of wisdom, while society venerates philosophers for their pursuit of truth and knowledge. Erasmus exposes the contradictions and flaws inherent in their quest. He portrays them as tormented figures, consumed by their relentless search for understanding, yet often detached from the world they seek to comprehend. Their intellectual superiority, fueled by extensive knowledge, can lead to arrogance and isolation, distancing them from the simplicity and joy that stupidity, as personified by Erasmus, embraces. The solitary life of the philosopher, while seemingly noble, often comes at a significant cost. Consider the archetype of the lone scholar, surrounded by books and immersed in abstract ideas. This image reflects the dedication required for deep intellectual engagement, but it also highlights the solitude that accompanies it. Philosophers, in their pursuit of truth, frequently isolate themselves from the everyday concerns and connections that bring meaning and fulfillment to life. Their focus on reason and analysis may lead them to neglect the emotional and relational aspects of human existence, creating a gap between their intellectual pursuits and the lived experiences of others. Erasmus critiques this tendency by suggesting that the pursuit of wisdom, when taken to an extreme, can become self-defeating. The philosopher's relentless questioning and doubt often lead to a sense of existential unease, as each answer reveals new layers of complexity and uncertainty. This endless cycle of inquiry can create a sense of futility, as the ultimate truths philosophers seek remain elusive. For example, a philosopher studying the nature of happiness may uncover numerous theories and perspectives, yet struggle to apply these insights to their own life, remaining distant from the simple joys that others experience effortlessly. The arrogance that often accompanies intellectual superiority is another target of Erasmus' critique. Philosophers, by virtue of their deep understanding, may develop a sense of detachment or disdain for those who do not share their level of knowledge. This elitism can alienate them from society, as their insights are perceived as inaccessible or irrelevant to the concerns of ordinary people. A modern example of this dynamic can be seen in academic circles, where scholars may prioritize theoretical rigor over practical application, leaving their work disconnected from the realities it seeks to address. A groundbreaking paper on ethics, for instance, may go unread outside academic journals, failing to influence public discourse or decision-making. Erasmus also explores the tension between reason and emotion in the philosopher's life. While philosophers prioritize rationality and logic, they often undervalue the role of emotions and intuition in shaping human experience. This imbalance can lead to a narrow view of truth, as the richness of human existence cannot be fully captured through reason alone. For example, the philosopher who analyzes love through the lens of evolutionary biology or social psychology may miss the subjective, emotional depth that makes love meaningful to those who experience it. Erasmus' critique invites us to consider the limitations of reason and the importance of embracing the irrational and emotional aspects of life. The pursuit of truth, as Erasmus presents it, is not inherently wrong, but it requires balance. Philosophers who become consumed by their quest risk losing sight of the practical and relational dimensions of existence. This imbalance is evident in the lives of historical figures like Friedrich Nietzsche, whose profound insights into human nature were accompanied by personal struggles with isolation and mental health. Nietzsche's work, while intellectually groundbreaking, reflects the toll that relentless introspection and existential inquiry can take on an individual's well-being. Erasmus' reflections also resonate in the context of modern intellectual pursuits. Today's philosophers, scientists, and thinkers often face similar challenges as they navigate the demands of their disciplines. The increasing specialization of knowledge can create silos, where experts in one field struggle to communicate with those in another or with the general public. This fragmentation mirrors the isolation Erasmus describes, as the pursuit of truth becomes disconnected from broader human concerns. A physicist working on quantum mechanics, for instance, may contribute to groundbreaking discoveries, but find it difficult to explain their significance to someone without a scientific background. This gap underscores the need for philosophers and intellectuals to bridge the divide between their work and the lives of those it impacts. Erasmus' critique extends beyond individual philosophers to the broader culture of intellectualism. He warns against the tendency to elevate knowledge and reason above all else, suggesting that this mindset can lead to a devaluation of other forms of understanding. The privileging of intellectual achievement over emotional intelligence, creativity, or practical wisdom creates an imbalance that diminishes the richness of human experience. For example, a society that prioritizes academic success above all else may overlook the contributions of artists, caregivers, and community leaders, whose work is equally vital to the well-being of individuals and communities. The tension between simplicity and complexity is central to Erasmus' critique. While philosophers seek to unravel the complexities of existence, they often neglect the simple truths that bring meaning and joy to life. The ability to appreciate beauty, connect with others, and find contentment in everyday moments is not dependent on intellectual understanding. Erasmus' personification of stupidity as a goddess highlights the value of these simple pleasures, which are often dismissed or overlooked by those consumed by the pursuit of knowledge. A child playing in the park, a couple sharing a quiet moment, or a group of friends laughing over a shared memory embody a kind of wisdom that transcends intellectual analysis. Erasmus does not suggest that the pursuit of truth is futile or misguided, but he calls for a more holistic approach to wisdom. Philosophers, he argues, should balance their intellectual endeavors with an appreciation for the emotional, relational, and practical aspects of life. This balance allows for a fuller understanding of human existence, one that integrates reason with intuition, analysis with empathy, and complexity with simplicity. A philosopher who engages with the world, listens to diverse perspectives, and remains open to the unpredictability of life embodies the kind of wisdom Erasmus champions. Erasmus' critique of philosophers ultimately challenges us to reconsider what it means to live a meaningful and balanced life. While the pursuit of truth and knowledge is a noble endeavor, it is not an end in itself. True wisdom lies in the ability to integrate intellectual insights with the lived experiences of oneself and others, fostering connections and embracing the contradictions of existence. By acknowledging the limitations of reason and the value of stupidity, as Erasmus defines it, we can cultivate a more compassionate and inclusive understanding of what it means to be human. This perspective invites philosophers, scholars, and thinkers to engage not only with abstract ideas, but also with the tangible realities of the world around them, creating a richer and more connected vision of wisdom. Erasmus' exploration of folly offers a profound lesson about embracing imperfection as an integral part of the human condition. By recognizing that life is a delicate balance between knowledge and ignorance, reason and madness, he invites us to accept the contradictions and flaws that define us. This acceptance is not about resignation or complacency, but about finding harmony and meaning within the chaos of existence. It is through our imperfections that we often discover beauty, resilience, and connection. Erasmus' reflections challenge the modern obsession with perfection and control, which can lead to unrealistic expectations and unnecessary suffering. In a world that constantly demands improvement, whether through self-help trends, professional achievements, or social media's curated portrayals of life, Erasmus' message serves as a counterbalance. He reminds us that striving for perfection often blinds us to the value of what is already present. For example, consider the pressure many people feel to achieve the perfect career, relationship, or lifestyle. This relentless pursuit can overshadow the joy found in simpler, more authentic experiences, such as spending time with loved ones or pursuing hobbies without the need for external validation. The Zen parable of the cracked pot illustrates Erasmus' philosophy beautifully. The cracked pot, initially ashamed of its imperfection, ultimately realizes its flaw, contributes to something greater, watering flowers along the path. This story resonates deeply with the idea that our weaknesses and limitations can have unexpected benefits. Think of an artist whose unconventional techniques, born from a lack of formal training, lead to a unique and celebrated style. Or consider a leader who, rather than hiding their vulnerabilities, uses them to connect with others and foster trust. These examples show that imperfections are not barriers to success or fulfillment, but opportunities for creativity and growth. Erasmus' emphasis on embracing imperfection also applies to our relationships with others. Human connections are inherently messy, full of misunderstandings, conflicts, and compromises. Yet, these imperfections are what make relationships meaningful. A friendship that survives despite disagreements or a marriage that endures through challenges demonstrates the power of acceptance and forgiveness. For instance, think of a couple celebrating decades of partnership. They likely attribute their longevity not to an absence of flaws, but to their ability to navigate them together. finding humor and grace in their imperfections. This perspective extends to how we view ourselves. Self-criticism and doubt often arise from the belief that we must meet certain standards to be worthy of love, respect, or success. Erasmus' work encourages us to let go of these unrealistic expectations and embrace our humanity. Consider the example of someone struggling with imposter syndrome, feeling unworthy despite their accomplishments. By recognizing that everyone has insecurities and moments of doubt, they can begin to appreciate their unique contributions and take pride in their journey, imperfections and all. Erasmus also highlights the importance of balancing reason and madness, knowledge and ignorance, in our approach to life. While rationality and intellect are valuable, they are not sufficient to navigate the complexities of existence. Embracing folly, whether through creativity, spontaneity, or play, allows us to experience life more fully. Think of a parent who, instead of meticulously planning every detail of their child's birthday party, decides to embrace the chaos and enjoy the moment. Or a professional who takes a risk on an unconventional idea, knowing it might fail but appreciating the learning and growth that come from the attempt. These moments of folly often lead to the most memorable and meaningful experiences. The lessons Erasmus offers are particularly relevant in the context of modern work culture, which often prioritizes productivity and perfection over well-being and creativity. Employees are frequently encouraged to minimize mistakes and maximize efficiency, creating an environment where fear of failure stifles innovation. Erasmus' insights suggest that allowing space for imperfection, not only tolerating it, but celebrating it, can lead to greater satisfaction and success. For example, a team that values diverse perspectives, including unconventional or imperfect ideas, is more likely to find innovative solutions than one that adheres rigidly to established norms. Erasmus' reflections also have implications for how we approach societal and global challenges. The pursuit of utopian ideals, while noble, can sometimes lead to disillusionment or even harm when it disregards the complexities and imperfections of human nature. Efforts to create perfect systems, whether in governance, education, or technology, often overlook the unintended consequences of such endeavors. A more pragmatic approach, informed by Erasmus' philosophy, would acknowledge the limitations and trade-offs inherent in any solution. For instance, addressing climate change requires balancing ambitious goals with practical considerations, such as the economic and social impacts of transitioning to renewable energy. By embracing imperfection, we can make progress without becoming paralyzed by the pursuit of unattainable ideals. Erasmus' insights also invite us to rethink how we measure success and fulfillment. Traditional metrics, such as wealth, status, or accolades, often prioritize external validation over intrinsic satisfaction. However, the joy of a fulfilling career, a loving relationship, or a creative pursuit often lies not in its perfection but in the imperfections and challenges that make it unique. Consider a musician who, despite technical flaws in their performance, conveys deep emotion and connection with their audience, or a writer whose unconventional style resonates with readers precisely because it breaks from traditional norms. These examples highlight the beauty and authenticity that imperfection can bring. Ultimately, Erasmus' exploration of folly teaches us to approach life with humility, humor, and resilience. By embracing our imperfections and those of others, we can navigate challenges with greater grace and find meaning in unexpected places. This perspective encourages us to let go of the need for control and certainty, instead finding joy in the unpredictable and imperfect nature of existence. It is through this acceptance that we can truly appreciate the richness and complexity of life, discovering harmony not in spite of our flaws, but because of them. Erasmus' insights in Praise of Folly remain profoundly relevant, as his work goes beyond mere critique to offer a profound understanding of human nature. By personifying stupidity and exploring its role in our lives, Erasmus compels us to confront the contradictions, imperfections, and paradoxes that define our existence. His satire is not meant to mock humanity, but to encourage reflection, self-awareness, and ultimately acceptance of our shared flaws. This perspective challenges us to embrace folly as an intrinsic part of the human condition rather than viewing it solely as a defect to be eradicated. Erasmus' analysis highlights the duality inherent in human nature, where wisdom and folly coexist in a delicate balance. This balance is necessary for navigating the complexities of life, as neither extreme provides a complete solution. Pure rationality, though admirable, often fails to account for the emotional and irrational aspects of human experience, while unchecked folly can lead to chaos and self-destruction. Recognizing this duality enables us to approach life with greater humility and empathy, understanding that imperfection is not a weakness but a fundamental aspect of being human. This recognition is particularly relevant in how we approach decision-making and problem-solving. Modern society often prioritizes rational analysis and data-driven solutions. Yet many of the most profound decisions in life, such as choosing a partner, pursuing a passion, or forgiving someone, are guided by intuition and emotion rather than logic. Erasmus' ideas remind us that these less tangible elements of decision-making are not inferior but essential to our well-being. For example, someone deciding to switch careers might not have a perfectly logical reason, but instead feel a deep-seated intuition that their current path no longer aligns with their values. Embracing this aspect of folly allows for growth and authenticity. Erasmus' critique also invites us to reconsider our understanding of progress and achievement. In a world that often equates success with perfection, his insights offer a refreshing alternative: the value of imperfection and the role it plays in creativity and innovation. Many groundbreaking ideas and inventions have emerged from moments of folly, acts of risk-taking or unconventional thinking that defy traditional logic. For instance, the Wright brothers' dream of human flight, once dismissed as folly, transformed transportation and reshaped the world. Similarly, the quirky ideas that gave rise to tech innovations like social media or online marketplaces demonstrate how folly, when harnessed, can lead to extraordinary outcomes. The relevance of Erasmus' ideas extends to how we approach personal relationships. His exploration of folly as a stabilizing force in friendships and marriages underscores the importance of acceptance, forgiveness, and humor in sustaining human connections. Relationships thrive not because they are free of flaws, but because individuals choose to embrace each other's imperfections. Think of a couple celebrating decades together, attributing their longevity to laughter, compromise, and the willingness to overlook minor annoyances. These elements of folly are not just incidental but foundational to the bonds that sustain us. Erasmus' perspective also resonates in the context of societal structures and institutions. His critique of politics, religion, and intellectualism reveals how folly often underpins the systems we rely on. For better or worse, leaders who manipulate public perception, institutions that prioritize appearances over substance, and scholars who become isolated in their pursuit of knowledge all reflect the interplay of wisdom and folly in shaping human society. Acknowledging this interplay can help us approach these systems with a critical yet compassionate eye, striving for reform while recognizing their inherent imperfections. In today's polarized world, Erasmus' emphasis on balance and self-awareness is particularly timely. His work challenges the notion of absolutes, whether in ideology, morality, or personal behavior, and encourages a more nuanced understanding of ourselves and others. By accepting the presence of folly in our lives, we can foster greater empathy and tolerance, recognizing that everyone grapples with the same contradictions and uncertainties. For example, in debates about social issues, acknowledging the limits of our own knowledge and the validity of differing perspectives can create space for dialogue and mutual understanding. Even amid disagreement, Erasmus' exploration of folly also speaks to the importance of humor and humility in navigating life's challenges. His satirical approach to serious subjects reminds us that laughter can be a powerful tool for coping with adversity and connecting with others. Humor allows us to take ourselves less seriously, making it easier to accept our flaws and those of others. For instance, a workplace team that can laugh together about their mistakes is often more resilient and collaborative than one that operates under constant pressure to be flawless. Erasmus' wit underscores the healing power of humor in creating a sense of shared humanity, Perhaps the most enduring lesson from Erasmus is the idea that wisdom lies not in denying folly, but in embracing it as a vital part of our journey. This perspective encourages us to approach life with curiosity and openness, willing to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them. It is through these moments of folly that we often discover our greatest strengths and insights. For instance, a writer who experiments with an unconventional narrative style may face criticism or failure, but they also have the potential to create something groundbreaking and authentic. Erasmus' celebration of folly as a source of creativity and growth invites us to reframe failure not as an endpoint, but as a stepping stone. Erasmus' work ultimately offers a compassionate and hopeful view of humanity. By acknowledging our imperfections and the role of folly in our lives, we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for the richness and complexity of existence. This perspective encourages us to find meaning and joy not in the absence of flaws, but in the ways we navigate and transcend them. As we grapple with the challenges and contradictions of modern life, Erasmus' insights remain a timeless guide, reminding us that the balance between wisdom and folly is not a problem to be solved, but a journey to be embraced. Now that we've journeyed through the wisdom of Erasmus, one thing becomes clear. Life is a delicate dance between wisdom and folly, perfection and imperfection. It's not about denying our flaws, but embracing them as an essential part of what makes us human. From our relationships to our pursuits of truth and power, folly isn't a failure, it's a teacher, a guide, and sometimes the spark of creativity and connection. What do you think? Do you see folly as a weakness, or could it be a hidden strength? Let's keep this conversation going in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this video made you think, laugh, or see the world differently, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with someone who might need a fresh perspective. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss our deep dives into ideas that inspire. And if you'd like to support the channel and help us grow, don't hesitate to use the super thanks button or check out our donation links in the description. Your support makes all the difference. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Until next time, remember, it's not in denying folly that we find wisdom, but in embracing it. See you in the next video.